Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
Have you ever been falsely accused of something? When I was in college, my roommate caught wind of a rumor about me. Someone was saying, "Yeah, that Carla seems like a quiet one, but you should see her when she's drunk." How could anyone say that when I'd never had anything alcoholic in my entire life, nor did I hang around with people who drank? I couldn't imagine who would hate me enough to start a rumor like that. My major concern was that it would hurt my witness, but a good friend of mine advised me to ignore the whole situation. He said anyone who knew me would know that was a lie. Jesus said, "Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake." I didn't feel very blessed, nor did I rejoice and become exceedingly glad, but I did recognize that it was a type of persecution because somehow I was a threat to the enemy, and he wanted to discredit me. Paul the Apostle certainly had false statements said about him, didn't he? We see that especially in Acts 24, when he stood trial before Felix, the Roman governor in Caesarea. He'd been taken into custody by the Roman commander Lysias in Jerusalem, then transferred to Caesarea. A few days later, Ananias the high priest, some of the Jewish elders, and a hired lawyer named Tertullius showed up to bring charges against Paul. For the high priest and a good number of Sanhedrin to leave Jerusalem, Governor Felix must have realized how much they hated Paul and wanted him dead. Tertullius started out with flattery. He laid it on so thick that it's pretty nauseous to read, especially if you know how evil and cruel Governor Felix was, and how much the Jews hated him. Apparently, they hated Paul more. Here's what Tertullius says. "Seeing that through you we enjoy great peace, and prosperity is being brought to this nation by your foresight, we accept it always, in all places, most noble Felix, with all thankfulness." No wonder they had hired someone to represent them. No Jew could say this without choking on the words. These Jewish leaders knowingly went against the proverb that advised them do not associate with one who flatters with his lips. He finally got to his accusation. "We have found this man Paul a plague, a creator of dissension among all the Jews throughout the world, a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. He even tried to profane the temple, and we seized him and wanted to judge him according to our law. But the commander Lysias came by, and with great violence took him out of our hands, commanding his accusers to come to you." Now, these charges weren't very specific, but they were serious. The Roman government didn't tolerate those who stirred up the people to rebel against Rome. Of course, that's not what Paul did. Riots did tend to spring up wherever Paul went. Remember the accusation of him turning the world upside down? And that whole "great as Diana of the Ephesians" riot. But they weren't started by Paul, nor were they against Rome. So Tertullius definitely stretched the truth there. And as for his claim that Paul profaned the temple and they'd been about to judge him by their own law until Lysias violently seized him, well, that was a downright lie. That had been a lynch mob intent on beating Paul to death until Lysias rescued him. Yet all the Jews with Tertullius stood behind him, nodding in agreement. Yes, he did all that and more. Evil, rebellious, ruining the good peace our revered governor has set up. You know, Satan likes to throw us into situations where we can stand accused. Remember, he did that to Daniel, but his enemies couldn't find any wrongdoing, so they had to outlaw prayer to get him in trouble. As Peter said in 1 Peter 4:15 and 16, "Let none of you suffer as a murderer, a thief, an evildoer, or as a busybody in other people's matters. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in this matter. The challenge for us is to keep a clear conscience before God. So when we are accused, it will serve to give God glory, as Paul did in his defense in the next few verses. Do you have a clear conscience before God? And think about this. If you were brought to trial for being a Christian, would there be enough proof to convict you?
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through His Word. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you can find in the description below. Thank you for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.